Do you want to have some Swiss chard to throw over your shoulder, just like I did in my book, Kitchen Garden Revival? Well, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to harvest Swiss chard so that you get tons of it, really big leaves, and you can be tossing it over your shoulder as you leave your kitchen garden too. Welcome to Gardenary. Gardening plus ordinary equals gardenary. We're on a mission to make gardening an ordinary part of everybody's life once again. So if you like the sound of that, subscribe to the Gardenary channel and stick around because we got tons of gardening videos heading your way all season long. So let's learn to harvest some Swiss chard. Sound like a good plan? I think so. I'm gonna put my book down. All right, so all you need to harvest your Swiss chard is some pruners. You can use like garden scissors. I love these. These are Sophie Conran pruners, and they're great, but generally I would probably even use just some simple garden scissors. Swiss chard is a superfood. It is in the amaranth family, which includes beets and spinach, all these greens that are so good for you. So Swiss chard's so good for you, so prolific in the garden, and it's what we call a biennial. A biennial is a plant that, if the weather permits, it will last in the garden for more than 1 year. So it's not a perennial, if you've heard that term. Perennial means it could last for years and years and years. Biennials are those who could last for maybe, say, 2 full years in the garden. In fact, the Swiss chard picture you saw in my book, Kitchen Garden Revival, that Swiss chard had been in the garden for 18 months in Houston, Texas, when I harvested those greens. So my tomato is trying to get into the frame here. It really wants to be part of this show. This is not the tomato's turn, so it's the Swiss chard's turn. Swiss chard, like most greens, is going to grow from the heart of the plant. So what we're going to do is go into the base of the plant and harvest. So I'll bring you close in to the plant in just a second, but let me just give you a few tips. So first, have some clean pruners. Head out to your garden early in the morning. The best time to harvest any kind of greens is really early in the day. The greens are going to be sweeter. They will have pulled up moisture from the soil and from the air overnight, so they're going to be sweeter. They'll hold their moisture longer. So if you've ever harvested greens and then you bring them inside and they're like looking so sad and wilty like 2 seconds later, oftentimes that's because they just drop their moisture too fast. So grabbing them in the mornings is super helpful, bringing out some clean pruners, and then you want to bring, say, a harvest basket or a bowl or something like that so that you can get the greens indoors as fast as possible. So as soon as you harvest, I really recommend getting them in a cooler area. Don't let them just sit out in the garden while you take your pictures and take a whole bunch of other harvests. So harvest them up. You could even slide them into some cold water. Slide the stems down into some cold water to keep them nice and fresh while you bring them indoors to start cooking or eating or however you're going to use them. All right, so all we're going to do is go down to the base of the plant, and then we're going to harvest around the exterior and the bottom of the plant. You never want to take more than 1/3 of the plant at a time if you want to continue to harvest from them, which we definitely do. So the way I like to use my greens is cut and come again. And cut and come again means literally that. You cut and then you come back later and you cut them again. So I never chop the entire plant from the top like, say, a farmer would do if they're harvesting a ton of greens. This is more of a kitchen gardening method versus a row garden method where we don't pull the whole plant all at once. We pull a little bit from the plant every single week to get more harvest. So now I'm just going to go in with my pruners, go down to the base of the plant and cut around the edges of all these plants, and you'll see how many greens I can get from just a few plants. All right, let's do it. Okay, so as you can see down here at the base of the plant, there are a bunch of different stems growing, and you can even see, do you see the baby little leaves? This shows you the new growth that's on its way. So we want to definitely protect that new growth. That's the promise of many more harvests to come. So when you dive in, this does help you see things like this. We got a little weed here, so we can pull that out. That's part of the good of harvesting and gathering from your plants more often, is you can do a checkup on them and make sure they've got everything they need. So as you can see, I'm just going to the outside lower parts of the plant, cutting the stem, and then moving on. And you're literally, it's kind of like driving in a circle. So you're kind of just driving in a circle around the plant and making sure to preserve the inside leaves and just taking the outside. So I have pulled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've pulled 5 leaves and there's at least 5 left. So I actually took more like half of the plant. So I'm gonna move on to the next plant because I don't wanna take, that's really probably even a little much for that one plant. So this one, I'm gonna take this one, pull that one out. Now this is a good example of sometimes just using your harvesting as a way to clean. So you see here is a leaf that just needs to come out of the garden. This is total pest attraction here. So you want to get this out of here and just clean around your plant as you go. Now again, here's a lower leaf and it's just not looking so happy. So this one's going to go into the compost and then we'll just keep moving until we get some that we like better. So here's a nice, beautiful, big leaf. And we'll do maybe, I think we have space probably. This plant has more greens than the other one. So there's definitely room to cut a few extra stems. All right, so I think now I've got, I don't know, 10, 11, 12. Aren't those beautiful greens? You can just tell from looking at them how good they are for you, right? So I think we're about done on these 2 plants. And then we can bring these in. Like I said, you want to bring these in, put them in cold water. You could put them in a little jar of water to keep them nice and fresh, and then try to use them as fast as possible. So there's all kinds of ways to use Swiss chard in the kitchen. Mostly I enjoy cooking with Swiss chard. If I have baby leaves like this one, I might cut those up and put them in a salad, but for the most part, once the leaves are this big and mature, I'll use them in cooked dishes rather than raw. So that's all you gotta do to harvest Swiss chard leaves. Now, believe it or not, I can come in and harvest from these Swiss chard plants at least once a week during the entire time while they're growing. That's how prolific and full of development these plants are. Super, super good. So do you guys think, do I have the pose ready now? You're gonna be posing like this too with your Swiss chard in just a few days. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks for bringing back the kitchen garden with me. It's so beautiful, it's so fresh, and it's so good for you. If you want to learn how to bring your garden to the next level, you gotta take our Green Thumb quiz. You can find out about it at gardenary.com/quiz. There's a link right here below, and we'll help you learn how to grow to the next level in your own kitchen garden as soon as you answer just a few quick questions for us to get to know you better. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.